The stars above Earth twinkled quietly, peaceful and calm to anyone watching from the surface. But in the hearts of humans there was no peace. Far beyond the solar system, the Carthax Empire's fleets were moving, dark and silent like shadows stretching across the galaxy. Their goal was simple and terrifying: to destroy humanity. They believed humans were weak, unpredictable, and easy to crush. They did not know what humans could endure. On Earth, the news arrived like a cold wind. Screens lit up in every home, every city, every military station. The broadcasts showed the massive Carthax ships, millions of soldiers ready for war, weapons that could vaporize entire cities in a single shot. Panic rippled through some, but most people held their fear tightly inside, transforming it into determination. Humans had survived floods, wars, plagues, and famine. They had faced impossible odds before, and now, the impossible had returned. In the command room of the Earth Defense Fleet, Captain Leora Dane stood silent for a moment, staring at the holographic map of approaching Carthax ships. Each blinking light on the map represented a threat, a death sentence if humans were not ready. Her hand rested on the console, steady but tense. "They think we are fragile," she muttered under her breath. "They think we will break. They do not know us at all." Around her, the crew moved with quiet efficiency. Young pilots adjusted flight suits, engineers checked systems, and strategists calculated every possible scenario. None of them spoke of fear. None of them admitted it openly. But in the eyes of each person, Leora could see the same fire she felt herself. Fear existed, yes, but stronger than it was hope, courage, and a refusal to give in. Beyond the command room, in cities across Earth, ordinary people also prepared. Schools turned into shelters. Scientists worked around the clock in secret laboratories. Families clutched each other tightly, sharing whispered words of comfort, prayers, and promises. Humans were small in size compared to the Carthax, fragile in body. Yet their hearts carried something no machine or weapon could measure: relentless determination to survive. In space, the first Carthax ships arrived at the edge of the solar system. They spread out like a dark storm, massive and silent. Satellites detected their weapons, enough to destroy Earth's orbiting stations with a single strike. Yet, Earth's Titan-class warships, built in absolute secrecy over decades, remained hidden. They were humanity's ultimate shield, vessels designed to be stronger, faster, and deadlier than anything the galaxy had seen. No one outside the Earth Defense Fleet had ever known they existed. Leora Dane turned to her second-in-command, Commander Rylan. "Prepare the fleet for full alert," she ordered. "If they think they can take us by surprise, they are wrong. If they think we are weak, they will learn quickly." Rylan nodded, his face serious, and began relaying orders to the rest of the crew. Young pilots tightened straps on their helmets, engineers recalibrated weapon systems, and the engines of the Titan-class ships began to hum softly. The sound was low but powerful, like the heartbeat of a giant awakening. Meanwhile, civilians on Earth watched the skies. Though they could not see the Carthax fleet, the broadcasts warned them of incoming danger. Mothers held children, friends clasped hands, and strangers shared a silent understanding. Humanity was about to face its greatest test. And somehow, despite the fear, there was hope. Hope that humans, small and fragile as they seemed, could fight with courage unmatched in the galaxy. Captain Leora Dane took a deep breath and looked out at the stars. "We will not fall," she whispered almost to herself. "We will fight, and we will show them what it means to face humans." Somewhere deep in the approaching darkness, the Carthax fleet sailed unknowingly into a trap. They believed this war would be easy, that Earth would crumble under their might. But they did not know the strength, ingenuity, or determination of the species they had come to destroy. Humanity was ready. Humanity was waiting. And the first clash of this war, meant to take human lives, was about to change everything. The Carthax Empire's ships moved closer to Earth like a dark wave rolling through the stars. Their fleet stretched across millions of kilometers, countless vessels bristling with weapons and soldiers ready to unleash destruction. They were confident. They believed the humans would be no match for them. But they did not know the secret humans had been hiding for decades: the Titan-class warships. These ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Constructed in absolute secrecy, they were enormous, armored with materials no enemy could penetrate, equipped with weapons that could destroy entire fleets in moments. They had been humanity's hidden strength, a warning held back until the right moment. That moment had finally come. Captain Leora Dane stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, the lead Titan-class vessel, watching the enemy fleet appear on the sensors. Every officer in the room felt the weight of what was about to happen. They were not only fighting for their lives, but for the lives of billions of humans across Earth. "Deploy all ships," Leora ordered, her voice calm but firm. No hesitation. No mistakes. "They think we are weak? Let's show them what humans can do." The engines of the Titan-class ships rumbled to life, a low, powerful sound that resonated through the hull. Every ship in the fleet moved with precision, formations shifting like a living organism. Young pilots strapped themselves into cockpits, hands trembling slightly, hearts pounding. Yet no one faltered. Fear was present, yes, but it was replaced quickly by courage. The kind that comes only when survival is at stake and the future of a species hangs in the balance. Commander Ryland, standing beside Leora, glanced at her. "Do they even know we exist?" he asked quietly. "They think we are easy prey," Leora replied, her eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. "They think Earth is unprepared. Soon they will learn their mistake." Back on Earth, civilians watched the skies, unaware of the hidden vessels lying in wait. Scientists monitored the battle from underground bunkers. Engineers adjusted communications, and families whispered prayers for their loved ones. Every human in some small way was connected to the war effort. Humanity's strength was not only in its ships or weapons, it was in every person's hope, determination, and courage. The first Titan-class ships moved into position. Their presence alone was enough to make the Carthax pause for a fraction of a second, sensing something unfamiliar and dangerous in the calculations of battle. But they did not yet understand. They could not imagine a species small and fragile in body, yet cunning, resilient, and willing to fight to the last breath. On the bridge of the Indomitable, sensors detected enemy ships aligning for the first strike. Leora's hand hovered over the control console. "Wait for my signal," she said. "We will not attack blindly. We will strike where it hurts most." The crew braced themselves, feeling the tension of the moment. Every life aboard was precious, every action deliberate. Outside, space was silent, empty, but charged with the anticipation of destruction and defiance. Lieutenant Mara, one of the youngest pilots, whispered under her breath, "This is it. Our first real fight." Her hands gripped the controls tightly. She was terrified, yet exhilarated. Every human on the ship shared the same feeling, fear intertwined with an unshakable determination. Finally, the moment came. Leora pressed a single button, signaling the attack. In an instant, the hidden weapons of the Titan-class ships roared to life. Massive energy beams tore through space, striking the Carthax ships with devastating precision. Explosions erupted in every direction. The enemy fleet, confident and arrogant just moments before, was suddenly thrown into chaos. Commander Ryland's voice rang out over the comms. "They underestimated us. They should have known better." The battle had begun, and humanity, hidden and underestimated for too long, was ready to unleash its full power. The war that was meant to take human lives was about to reveal something far more terrifying: the lethal strength of human will and ingenuity. The silence of space shattered in an instant. The first beams from the Titan-class warships tore through the void like bolts of lightning, striking the Carthax fleet with unimaginable force. Ships exploded in fiery bursts, sending fragments tumbling into the emptiness. The Carthax, confident in their superiority, had not expected such a devastating response. For the first time, they hesitated. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Leora Dane stood firm, eyes locked on the view screen. "Hold formation. Target their leaders first," she commanded. Her voice carried calm authority, but beneath it was a fire that ignited the courage of everyone aboard. Each crew member knew that failure was not an option. Humanity's survival rested on their hands. Lieutenant Mara's hands moved quickly over her controls, guiding her fighter through the debris-filled battlefield. "I see one of their squadrons," she called out. "Ready to engage." With a deep breath, she fired, hitting the enemy with pinpoint accuracy. The Carthax vessel shuddered before breaking apart. Mara's heart raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She realized then the truth. Humans were not meant to be victims, they were warriors. Commander Ryland, standing beside Leora, monitored multiple screens. "Their strategy is collapsing," he said. They didn't anticipate coordinated attacks like ours. Leora nodded. They assumed fear would control us, she replied. They assumed weakness would rule. They were wrong. Despite the victories, the cost was clear. Explosions shook the Titan-class S. Hips, alarms blared. Crew members scrambled to contain damage. The battle was brutal. Humans were small, fragile in comparison to the enormous Carthax war machines. Yet every strike, every maneuver was precise. Every action was guided not by mere strength but by intelligence, creativity, and the will to survive. Across the battlefield, smaller human vessels darted between colossal enemy ships, striking where the Carthax were most vulnerable. Engineers worked frantically to repair weapons and shields mid-battle, ensuring that no ship faltered. Pilots risked everything to protect each other and press the attack. It was chaos, but a chaos fueled by determination and unity. Look at them, Mara whispered to herself as she watched a Carthax destroyer crumble under the coordinated human assault. They're unstoppable. Her voice carried disbelief, awe, and pride all at once. That moment made her understand something she had always felt deep inside. Humans were more than their bodies, more than their weapons. They were courage, creativity, and spirit combined. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Leora glanced at her crew. Faces were tense, eyes bright with determination. No one spoke of fear. It was understood and set aside. The humans fought not because they sought glory, but because they refused to be conquered. Every life lost was a memory, every strike a promise. Humanity would survive. Outside, the battlefield seemed endless. Carthax ships fell in waves, but the enemy pressed on. Humans pushed back just as fiercely, refusing to give ground. Each successful strike strengthened their resolve. Every explosion of enemy fire reminded them that the stakes were real, but it also reminded them why they fought. They were defending not just themselves, but their families, their homes, and the future of an entire species. As the first clash reached its peak, it became clear. The Carthax had underestimated humans. They had come to take lives, expecting little resistance. Instead, they faced something far more dangerous, a species that refused to die, a species that turned fear into strategy, weakness into strength. Leora Dane took a deep breath, feeling the hum of the Indomitable beneath her feet. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "They thought they could end us. They were wrong. They've awakened something they cannot stop." And in that moment, every human in the fleet understood the truth. They were no longer prey. They were predators in their own right. The first clash was over, but the war had only begun, and already the Carthax would never forget the name of humanity. The stars above the battlefield glowed cold and distant, but inside the Titan-class ships, there was a warmth no enemy could touch, a warmth born from courage, unity, and unwavering hope. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with something far stronger, the heart of their species. Captain Leora Dane stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the Carthax fleet regroup. They were relentless, enormous, and deadly, but humans had something the Carthax could not calculate: ingenuity and determination. "They believe numbers and firepower will win," Leora said softly. "They do not know that humans fight with everything they are. They fight with their hearts." Her words echoed through the bridge, inspiring every crew member. Engineers worked faster, repairing shields and weapons mid-battle. Pilots adjusted formations, ready to take calculated risks. Soldiers at the command consoles calculated attacks with precision, knowing that one wrong move could cost lives. Yet none of them hesitated. Every human aboard knew their strength came not only from steel or firepower, but from the will to survive and to protect each other. In a small fighter, Lieutenant Mara guided her ship through the chaos, dodging beams of plasma and weaving between falling debris. She had seen destruction before, but never like this. Each explosion reminded her of what was at stake, but it also strengthened her resolve. "We can't let them win," she whispered to herself. "We won't let them." On Earth, families watched transmissions of the battle. Children clung to parents, eyes wide with fear and awe. Adults held their hands, whispering words of comfort and pride. Scientists monitored the fleet's progress from hidden bunkers, adjusting support systems to maximize human efficiency. Every human on Earth, in some small way, was connected to the fight. Humanity's strength was not just in the Titans or in their tactics, it was in every individual who refused to surrender. Commander Ryland turned to Leora, his face serious. Their firepower is immense, but their strategy is breaking. They don't understand our coordination. Leora nodded. We fight as one, she said. Every ship, every pilot, every crew member, they are part of something bigger than themselves. That is what makes us unstoppable. The Carthax unleashed their most powerful attacks, massive energy beams that could have destroyed any ordinary ship. Titan-class shields strained and alarms blared across the fleet. But humans adapted quickly, rerouting energy, launching countermeasures and striking back with precision. Each strike was calculated, each move deliberate. Humans were not just fighting, they were thinking, creating, and turning the tide in ways the Carthax had never imagined. Even as explosions shook the hull and alarms screamed, Leora's crew felt a strange sense of clarity. Fear was present, yes, but it was controlled. Every life aboard was precious, and every human knew that courage did not mean the absence of fear. It meant acting in spite of it. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the right to exist, to be remembered, to prove that even a small species could rise against a mighty empire. Lieutenant Mara watched as a Carthax destroyer collapsed under a coordinated strike. Her heart swelled with pride, and she realized something profound. Humans were not defined by their weapons or ships. They were defined by their willingness to protect, to endure, to rise when all seemed lost. On the bridge, Leora's voice rang out over the comms. Remember this, everyone. We fight because we must. We fight because we refuse to be conquered. Every human alive today is proof that no power in the galaxy can take our spirit. Outside, the battlefield stretched endlessly, filled with chaos, fire, and determination. The Carthax were powerful, but humans were relentless. Every strike, every maneuver, every act of bravery was a testament to the indomitable will of a species that refused to bow. And in that moment, every human aboard the Titan-class ships understood the truth. It was not their weapons that made them formidable. It was their heart. The heart of humanity burned brighter than any star, stronger than any weapon, and fiercer than any enemy. The Carthax could destroy ships, but they could not destroy the spirit that guided them. As the battle raged on, one thought united every human. They were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting to show the galaxy the true strength of humanity. And in that fight, they would never falter. The battlefield was chaos itself, a storm of light, fire, and metal. The Carthax fleet pressed forward, massive ships moving with deadly precision. Their weapons could level entire cities. Their numbers were overwhelming, and their confidence was absolute. Yet against all odds, humans were holding their ground, and more than that, they were turning the tide. Captain Leora Dane stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her eyes scanning the battle. Ships she had once thought fragile darted between massive Carthax vessels, striking with precision and disappearing before retaliation could come. She could feel the energy of her fleet, the focus, the unity, the determination that burned brighter than any weapon in space. They underestimated us, she said softly, and that is their greatest mistake. Commander Rylan monitored the enemy lines on the tactical display. They're faltering, he said. Our maneuvers are breaking their formations. They didn't expect humans to fight like this. Leora nodded. They never did. They think power is enough. They don't understand courage. Explosions lit up space as human ships struck in perfect synchronization. Entire Carthax squadrons were destroyed within minutes, their massive vessels shredded by weapons they could not anticipate. Human engineers rerouted energy to shields and weapons with a speed no machine could match. Every strike was coordinated, every attack deliberate. It was a display not just of firepower but of ingenuity, strategy, and the unyielding will of a species fighting for survival. Lieutenant Mara led a small group of fighters on a daring strike against a Carthax destroyer. The enemy's weapons tore through space, cutting close, but Mara and her squad moved with unmatched precision. She fired a perfect volley, and the destroyer erupted in flames, its massive hull breaking apart. She gasped, heart pounding, feeling a surge of pride and disbelief. We did it, she whispered. We really did it. The Carthax, massive and terrifying, began to retreat in parts. Their confidence cracked as human strategy and courage overwhelmed their brute force. Captain Leora could see it clearly. The enemy thought humans were weak, but every strike, every tactical move, every life risked had proven otherwise. Humans were dangerous because they refused to surrender, because they were willing to fight for each other, for their homes, for the very right to exist. Even as they pushed forward, Humans paid the price. Ships were lost, crews were injured, and explosions rocked the fleet. But each sacrifice strengthened the resolve of the survivors. Every loss became a spark for courage. Every act of bravery a reminder that humanity's strength was not in weapons alone. It was in their hearts. From Earth, people watched the transmissions with awe and fear. Children clung to parents, hoping their loved ones were safe. Families whispered prayers and encouragements. Scientists adjusted systems to provide support. Every human in some way was part of the fight. Humanity was united, and in that unity lay their greatest power. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Leora glanced at her crew. Faces were tense but determined, eyes shining with resolve. "We are proving that humans cannot be counted out," she said. "We are small, yes, but small does not mean weak. We are survivors, and today we fight like legends." Commander Ryland smiled slightly. "It's working," he said. "They're starting to break." The Carthax could not understand it. They had power, numbers, and fear, but humans had something no empire could measure. Courage, ingenuity, and the unbreakable will to protect their own. Each human in the fleet carried not just a weapon, but the heart of a species that refused to be conquered. As the battle raged, the tide truly began to turn. Carthax ships fell in numbers the humans could not have imagined. The enemy's confidence shattered, replaced with fear, confusion, and awe. And humanity, battered and exhausted, pressed forward, unstoppable. Captain Leora Dane stood tall, her voice calm but filled with authority. "Hold the line. Push forward. Show them what it means to face humans." And in that moment it was clear. The Carthax had underestimated not just the fleet but the spirit of an entire species. Humanity was rising, unstoppable, fierce, and united. The tide had turned, and the war that was meant to take human lives was now a battle that would echo across the galaxy for centuries. The battlefield stretched endlessly, a void filled with fire, smoke, and the deafening roar of weapons. The Carthax fleet, once confident and unyielding, now faltered under the relentless human assault. Their massive ships, designed to crush entire civilizations, were being destroyed one by one. Humanity was pushing them back, but the greatest challenge still lay ahead: the Carthax flagship. Oblivion was a fortress of death, a ship larger than most of Earth's cities, bristling with weapons capable of annihilating the Titan-class fleet. Its sheer size and power had terrified generations of humans even in simulations. Now it floated in the void like a monstrous god, daring humans to challenge it. Captain Leora Dane stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her eyes fixed on the colossal ship. Every human on the bridge felt the weight of the moment. The stakes were higher than ever. One mistake could mean annihilation. But surrender was not an option. Humanity had survived impossible odds before. Today they would survive again. "We hit it together," Leora said, voice steady and firm. "Every ship, every fighter, every human alive is counting on this strike. We do not fail." Lieutenant Mara's hands trembled slightly on her controls, but her heart burned with determination. "For Earth," she whispered, and she wasn't alone. Every pilot, every crew member repeated the unspoken vow. They would fight no matter the cost. Commander Ryland coordinated the attack, his voice calm but urgent. "Focus on the weapons first. Disable their offense, then we strike the core." The plan was dangerous, almost suicidal, but humans had learned to turn danger into opportunity. They had no choice but to risk everything for victory. The Titan-class ships moved with precision, a coordinated swarm of unstoppable force. Smaller human fighters darted between massive Carthax cannons, dodging beams that could tear them apart. Engineers rerouted power to shields in real time, while weapons teams fired with perfect timing. Every movement was a blend of skill, courage, and instinct honed by years of preparation. Explosions rocked space as the first Carthax weapons fell silent. Humanity's countermeasures were working. Mara's fighter struck a critical point in Oblivion's hull, and a massive explosion tore through the enemy's defenses. The flagship shuddered under the onslaught, yet the Carthax fought back fiercely. Plasma beams sliced through space, tearing chunks from the Titan-class fleet. Alarm sirens screamed across ships. Lives were lost and grief filled the air. But humans did not falter. Every loss fueled their courage. Every strike became more precise. Humanity fought not just with weapons, but with heart, with ingenuity, and with an unyielding will to survive. Finally, the moment came. Leora gave the signal. The Titan-class ships fired a coordinated volley, every weapon striking simultaneously at the core of Oblivion. The flagship trembled, its defenses collapsing under the concentrated attack. Mara's fighter delivered the final blow, piercing the heart of the ship. A massive explosion erupted, lighting up the void like a dying sun. Oblivion disintegrated in fire and metal, its power extinguished forever. The remaining Carthax ships, seeing their flagship destroyed, faltered. Panic rippled through their fleet. They had underestimated humans, and now they paid the price. Captain Leora Dane lowered her hand from the console, breathing deeply. Around her, the crew exhaled, exhausted but victorious. Commander Ryland smiled, a rare expression of relief crossing his face. "We did it," he said simply. Outside, the stars seemed quieter now, as if the universe itself paused to witness what had just occurred. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged victorious. The Carthax had come to take human lives, but humans had unleashed their true power. A force of courage, ingenuity, and unity no empire could ever destroy. On the bridge, Leora looked at her crew. Faces were tired, eyes red from fear and determination, but all carried the same quiet pride. "Remember this day," she said softly. "Not just for the lives we saved, but for the spirit we showed. Humans will never be underestimated again." And somewhere in the galaxy, the Carthax fleet fled, their arrogance shattered, their power humbled. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. The battlefield was quiet now, but not peaceful. Debris from destroyed ships floated through the void, glowing like distant stars in the emptiness. The Carthax fleet had fled, their arrogance shattered, their power humbled. But humanity had survived. Against impossible odds, they had not only survived, they had triumphed. Captain Leora Dane stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking out at the aftermath. The void was silent except for the hum of her ship. She felt a mixture of exhaustion and pride, sorrow and hope. So many lives had been lost, so much destruction endured, yet humanity remained. She turned to her crew, each face tired but shining with relief and determination. "We did it," she said softly. "Not because of weapons or numbers or chance, but because we never gave up." Lieutenant Mara, still in her fighter, floated among the wreckage, taking in the sight of the surviving ships. Her heart was heavy with grief for those lost, yet light with pride for what they had achieved. We actually did it," she whispered. "We faced them, and we won." Commander Ryland, standing beside Leora, nodded. "They underestimated us," he said quietly. "They thought humans were fragile, small, unprepared. And they were wrong. Every human here, every human on Earth, showed them the strength of our spirit." The crew of the Titan-class ships began to make repairs, tending to the wounded, salvaging what they could, and preparing to return home. Each movement was careful, deliberate, but there was a quiet joy in the work. Humanity had proven something larger than victory in battle. They had proven that courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the greatest of threats. On Earth, people watched the transmissions of the battlefield with awe. Families embraced, tears streaming down their faces. Children stared in wide-eyed wonder, inspired by the bravery of humans fighting far above their heads. Across the world, humanity felt united, connected by the same heartbeat that had carried their warriors through the void, the desire to survive, to protect, to endure. Leora Dane walked along the deck of the Indomitable, her eyes catching the stars beyond. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "The galaxy has seen what humans are capable of. They will remember us not as prey, but as warriors, survivors, and creators." Every officer, pilot, and crew member nodded, feeling the weight of history upon them. The Carthax would tell stories of their defeat, but humans would remember the cost. They would remember the friends they had lost, the courage that had carried them through fire, and the hope that had never faltered. Lieutenant Mara approached Leora, her eyes bright despite exhaustion. "Do you think they'll ever understand us?" she asked. "They will try," Leora said. "But humans are more than they can measure. We fight, we endure, we create. And above all, we never give up. That is something no empire, no fleet, no weapon can ever take from us." As the Titan-class ships prepared to return to Earth, a quiet sense of pride filled the fleet. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger. They had fought a war meant to take human lives and turned it into a testament of what it truly meant to be human. They had unleashed not just their weapons, but their hearts, their courage, and their spirit. Captain Leora Dane looked at the stars one last time before giving the order to return. She knew the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. They had shown that even a small, fragile species could rise against overwhelming odds, and that spirit could change the fate of worlds somewhere. Deep in the cosmos, the Carthax fleets would tremble at the name of humanity. But on Earth, the survivors celebrated quietly, knowing that humanity's legacy had been forged in fire and courage. They had faced annihilation and emerged victorious, and so began a new chapter in the history of humanity, a chapter written in resilience,